Welcome back to Hashtag, a new series of discussion for youth. Before we get to our guest, I'd like to do a quick check of our Twitter. Regis, what are you hearing?
Yeah,
and our handle is 2015 Hashtag, if you want to jump in.
Absolutely. There's one comment I really liked. Basically, one tweet says, there is one thing worse than the EU. It's the world where it doesn't exist. So I think that's an interesting thing to say. What if we didn't have the EU? I think that's an interesting comment. Another thing I hear is diversity is probably the main issue. And as long as we don't have a strong political representation of diversity, then it won't work. Okay,
good points. This part of the show now, let's shift gears a little bit, is where we introduce you to our guest. He's been sitting in the audience here listening to the discussion and is ready to join in now. Bleri Lleshi is a Brussels-based philosopher. Come on in, Bleri. You're a writer of various books and a human rights activist.
Yeah.
And Bleri is of Albanian origin and has been living in Belgium since 2000. In 2014, let's give him a round of applause before I go on. And I know that, Bleri, you're writing a book right now, as a matter of fact, and what is very impressive, I've had you on other talk shows before, is that you are active on the ground with youth here in Brussels. As an ethnic Albanian who's lived in Belgium for a long time, so you can relate to a lot of different people. In 2014, you were chosen as one of the most influential migrants in Belgium and won various awards, including the Emancipation Prize. And you've started several grassroots projects for youth. But first of all, let me ask you, what is your identity?
Yeah, thanks to all of you for your participation and contributions in this conversation. My identity, actually, when you asked, do you feel, do you have a European identity?
I think you got my, yeah, go ahead.
I just said that I raised my hand, but that's definitely not my main identity. My main identity is Bruxellois. Bruxellois is someone who comes or lives in Brussels. That's my first identity.
Before being European.
I have some identification with Europe, but that's all. So actually, I'm not so surprised from what you have said, because I have the feeling that half of you work for European institutions and half of you come from the European school, you know. So I don't share this enthusiasm on Europe as most of you do. And if I see actually with the youth with who I work, I can say it's pretty much the same.
Okay.
And why? I mean, it has some reasons. First of all, we discussed the issue of skepticism.
Right.
I fully understand the skepticism towards Europe. You know, I remember very well, for example, when Ireland said no to the European Constitution, when Netherlands said no, and then they were like the bad guys against Europe. But that was totally not the message. I mean, the message was it's not skepticism towards Europe. It is we want another Europe, you know. And I'm not against Europe. I am for more Europe, but I definitely am not for this kind of Europe, the Europe that we have right now, because as you said, yes, it's very good that some of you got chances, most of you, I guess, you know, but that's just a very tiny part of the millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions youth that we have in Europe, and they are not getting these chances, neither from European politicians and institutions, neither from the national politicians.
Good.
So that's already one point. On the other hand, it is true, and I've been researching this question quite a lot. It is true that, and I'm very happy to hear from you that this. I mean, we have academic research, we have books, we have opinion makers, we have politicians saying to us that there is one identity, that you are, let us say, Albanian and nothing else, that you are Belgian and nothing else, that you are Flemish and nothing else.
Right.
But I have seen in my research that the contrary is true, that there is hybridity, there are different layers of our identities, and I think that young people are the best people in this society to understand that. We have fathers, we have grandfathers who have it much more difficult to understand the Europe, the diversity that is reality and is only increasing right now in Europe. I recently went to give a lecture somewhere, and the professor who invited me to speak to their students, told me, my mother is saw a few days ago for the first time in her life an African, and she was afraid, you know. So and I see then him who said like, yes, I live in Brussels, but if I see how my kids deal with diversity, is much better than me and is 10 times better than my grandmother. So,
so
youth is the future on that. That's
the future on that. Let's get some feedback from youth. And before we do that, I just want to make sure we stay on track about the points that were made up to now for those who are tuning back in. Let's go to Nadia very quickly.
So in the last bits of our discussions, we talked about solutions, about what we wanted to achieve to ensure the European identity. We talked about the use of education and mobility as prime sources, but also we mentioned features of the use of media within all the different countries.
Okay. Those are the main points then, I think, right? We're looking at the solutions, actually, right?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
In terms of education, it has been very prominent within this forum that education is a very important issue among youth. But my question then that I would like to pose to the forum is this responsibility just for youth? Are we just educating the youth? Because there are many still options beyond that. Are we thinking about professionals going to conference in international countries and fostering relationships in that form? Are we making sure that all the burden is on the youth to create a European identity?
Obviously not. I think we have a lot of others who are responsible for that. But also Bleri is saying that the youth are the hope for this, I think, right? Shall we get some feedback on these points that were made, please?
I'm Ioana, I'm from Romania.
Yes.
First, I want to say that we are talking about solutions. I agree that we should focus more on education, national government, and also media. But I also think that it's very important for us all that we are here, and not only us, all the people that feel European, to do something. Not only to blame media, not only to blame national government. As volunteer, because I'm part of AEG, European Student Forum, I'm doing a lot of activities, and I think we should focus also about this, and we should take attitude, and we should get more involved, and we should work more on this and do something, not only talk and not only blame the others.
So, developing a sense of European identity among, not only within yourself, but among others. We have another comment over here, please.
Yeah, I'm Maria, I come from Germany, and I totally agree with what you've said, that we us sitting here have a huge privilege to get an exchange of ideas, of traveling. I neither attended a European school, but now I have the chance to do something like European voluntary service, to do Erasmus and everything like this. But it's not an equality which is in Europe. There are different chances. We're born in different social circumstances, so this is the responsibility of us to change, which had this privilege. And maybe also what is in existence for me for a European identity is that Europe can face and faces global issues, and that we put us together to solve these global issues. We have crises in all the world, and together we have a bigger weight. So that's why we have to put us together to face the problems, face issues, and make equality.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We have someone over here. Unfortunately, we have just a few minutes left, so let's try to keep the comments very, very brief so we can spread it around.
I'll try to, and I'm very lucky because my points are closely related to the 2 points of the previous interlocutors.
Your name and you're from?
My name is Katerina, and I am from Greece. Okay. So we talked about media, and we talked about our part of responsibility. We also talked about identity now. But in an ideal world, identity is the part that we perceive as ourselves, and we explained it to the other people. But what happens when others have preconceived definitions of what identity is? What happens when, instead of constructive media that promotes a public discussion, a public forum, comes in the way, and instead of promoting the things that connect us, prefers to promote the things that make us different, prefers to promote stereotypes, or prefers to promote easy explanations.
For example?
For example, it's very, you mentioned before to Ivan, so what happens when you go abroad and people ask you where you are from, and they ask you, how do you feel Italian? So The problem is sometimes you may go abroad, and the moment that you answer about your nationality or your ethnicity, people already have some definitions of what that's supposed to mean. You're Italian, oh, so you eat a lot of pasta. You are Greek, oh, so you don't really go to work very often, do you?
So it's preconceived notions that you have to deal with, and that's
exactly.
Just,
so this is our part of responsibility.
Okay.
Our part of responsibility is to listen to each other better, to make an effort, and don't give in to our mind when it goes for easy, digestible solutions without exploring them ourselves.
So it's not just education, it's an individual outlook that you need. Bleri, what's your reaction up to now?
Yeah, I think to me education is the foundation of a society. But the thing is, if we look at education now, we have huge problems in there. I mean, it's not going the right direction if we see at education. And I mean, it's not only countries who are failing on this issue, it's also Europe which is failing. I mean, if you take Brussels as an example, almost 1/3 of the youth leaves the school without a degree. You know, I mean, we have hundreds of youth who cannot even go to the school. So many of people, I don't know how many of you know this, you know, that in this city, I mean, there is a right of education in the Belgian constitution, European, by Europe is guaranteed, internationally is guaranteed, but not to the young people over here. So I think if we want to change something in the society, we should definitely deal with the education. I'm very happy that you said that we have to realize in one way or another as privileged, you know, to do something about other people who are not in our position, you know. And I think if there is an important idea in Europe, there is the idea of solidarity. And I don't care about politicians coming to me, you know, selling that idea. I care about what do I do myself with it. I mean, how can we put solidarity in place? But the main message to me for you today is, I mean, for a long time, we have not been dealing in the right way with diversity. If I see, for example, what Cameron is doing, he's saying, I promise that I'll not let migrants get in, and I'll kick as much as possible migrants out, while it was migrants from Europe that put 30 billion euros the last 10 years in UK, and if it wasn't for that, the UK would be in huge crisis. Then I think what we should do today is, yes, we want to go for diversity. Yes, we want more diversity, and we don't want any longer this European project, which is live and let live, you know. I don't want that, you know. I want to live, and I want to live together, you know. And I don't want to hug with you every day, and I don't want to kiss you every day, and I don't want to talk to you every day. But I want to share this city with you. And sharing this city with you, and I'm coming, to me it means we have to do a few things. The first thing is we have to say, you know, we want to live together. The second thing is we have to do things together. We don't do things together. And the last thing is we have to share things together, you know. And when you share things together, you are building solidarity, and that is the most important thing to do.
Good points, Bleri. Please, where are you from?
Rebecca. I'm born in Congo, but grew up in Norway.
Okay.
And I agree.
What do you think about, what about Bleri's
Well,
side?
I agree with the education part, but I literally feel that education locally should be an important aim. Because, well, growing up in Norway, I don't think I was more exposed to the European way of living. I'm more exposed to the nationality, like the national Norwegian way of living. So we're not even part of the European Union, first and foremost. So in some ways, we don't literally feel European. We feel more Norwegian. Just because of the culture, everything we learn or everything we grew up with is more, well, directed to the Norwegian way of living.
And there's no common linkage there at all? Really?
What?
There's no common bond, no common linkage with the rest of Europe?
We have, but the thing is we have been promoting more the Norwegian way.
I see.
So I think education is important, but being like educating people locally, meaning you have to start starting in Norway, for example, in Oslo, educating people, like introducing them to more the European life or the European culture or European identity, and make them also feel identify with the other European people.
I so wish we had more time, but final quick comment from you, Bleri?
Yeah, the final quick comment. I mean, I'm happy that the word locally is said, because nowadays, and that is what the European politicians promise all the time, like, you are a European citizen and you are a world citizen and you can go there, you can go there. But in the end, I mean, if we do it, what are we going to do locally? You live somewhere locally, I live somewhere locally. And to me, it was really very important. Like, yes, definitely, I have solidarity with people all over the world, and I want to see things change all over the world. But I need to do right here, right now, where I live, I need to change something, I need to do something. So to me, it is very important to realize this, that it is not only a cosmopolitan idea, but we should also focus, how can we do things concretely, what can we do locally? So it's an end story.
And it seems like these solutions are from an individual standpoint, from a national standpoint, from an EU standpoint. It's like it has to be on different levels. Pia, very, very, very quickly, you had a final comment.
I would just like to say to what you said already, that we have to do things together, but also have to focus on what we want to achieve locally. And I just feel that a lot of problems that the European Union or the Europe and the European identity has is, for example, how to deal with political issues together, as well as making them most reasonable for different states. So, for example, immigration, as you said, we have the huge crisis in the Mediterranean that some countries just refuse to think about, in my opinion, just because it doesn't directly affect them. But we're all together. We all have to work on this. We promote democratic values, but somehow we fail in some points then again. And I think this is really something where we have to come together.
It's that Europeanness that could perhaps settle some of these issues. Last question to all of you. How European do we all feel after this conversation? How many feel European? How many don't? We have 2 now. That's very interesting. Very interesting after this discussion. That's all the time we have today. And remember, the next show is June 29th, live from 4 p.m. from Paris. And the topic then is youth employment, or unemployment, as it were. We'd like to thank all our guests here in the studio and our online audience and those of you who participated. We'd also like to thank our partners and supporters in making this happen, and of course, all of you. We ask that you spread the word. It's a great opportunity for youth to have a place to discuss the issues and challenges they face and you face, to give a chance for youth to take control of their future. And from all of us here at Hashtag, thank you very much, and see you next month. Thank you. Thank you, Bleri. Thank you.
You were checking out what? Ew, what's your problem? Boy, I think you ought to know. Whoa, whoa, girls don't want to hear that. Girls don't want to hear that. No, whoa, whoa. If you're checking out her goods, then you better keep it to yourself. I know you can't resist her hair, her face, and when she shakes her. I'm your friend, and I'm telling you, girls don't want to hear that. No, if you're checking out her goods, then you better keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself.